the show where the crunch meets the canvas.
A newly married US champion walked into the O2 Arena in London with Lil Yachty by his side. A former AEW star debuted by blindsiding one of SmackDown's best performers, and the show closed with 5 of WWE's biggest names throwing hands in a chaotic brawl that set the table for Night of Champions. That was WWE Smackdown on June 26, 2026, taped at London's O2 Arena. Today, we are breaking down every match and segment from that show, what landed, what fell flat, and what it all means heading into Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. I've got someone here who watched every single minute of this thing, and I want to start with a simple question. Was this a good go-home show?
It was a really solid go-home show. Not a perfect one, but for a taped episode, and this was taped on June 23rd, 3 days before it aired, it held together surprisingly well. The O2 Arena drew 13,328 fans, and that crowd was genuinely hot for most of the night. London crowds are just different, and you could feel it throughout the show.
Let's just set the table for anyone who maybe missed it. What was the context going into this episode?
So this was the final SmackDown before Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. The big matches heading into that show were Cody Rhodes defending the undisputed WWE Championship against Gunther and Sami Zayn in a triple threat, Jey Uso versus Oba Femi in the King of the Ring finals, and Tiffany Stratton defending the women's US title against Jade Cargill. SmackDown's job was to make you care about all of those matches, and for the most part, it delivered.
Okay, so let's go chronologically, because the opening segment is genuinely one of the more entertaining things I've seen on SmackDown in a while. Trick Williams comes out with Lil Yachty and announces he got married.
Right, so Trick Williams opens the show and reveals that he missed SmackDown the previous week because he was in Jamaica getting married to Lash Legend, with Lil Yachty there as part of the celebration. And the London crowd is immediately into it. He's got this great energy talking about how it was the best day of his life, and then pivots to Night of Champions and his US title defense against Ricky Saints.
And then Saints comes out and immediately tries to deflate the whole vibe.
That's exactly what he does. Saints congratulates Trick on the marriage, but then says it proves Trick is not good at making life decisions. He calls himself the wife's favorite lover and the mama's favorite child. It's a great heel line. But here's the thing. The London crowd absolutely buries Saints with chants, and Saints actually handles it well, leaning into the heat.
Trick's line about Saints needing to find a new dentist after Trick kicks his teeth through the back of his throat was pretty great.
Trick is just so naturally charismatic. And then Saints escalates by sucker punching Lil Yachty and attacking Trick from behind with a microphone. The transcription gave this segment a grade of A, and honestly that's fair. It accomplished everything a go-home promo needs to do. It made you want to see the match, it gave Saints a clear heel moment, and it left Trick looking like the sympathetic babyface heading into Night of Champions.
One thing I found interesting is that Bleacher Report's post-show analysis noted that Saints hasn't been built up enough to feel like a credible threat to the title. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's a fair critique. The Bleacher Report piece specifically said Saints hasn't been built to the point where he's a believable enough opponent to dethrone Williams, and that undoubtedly hurts the match. The promo was entertaining, but there's a ceiling on how much you can invest in a challenger who hasn't had a sustained push. Saints is clearly talented on the mic. The Bleacher Report piece even noted he arguably outshined Williams in the verbal exchange, but the booking hasn't caught up to the performance.
Okay, so after that, we get the first match of the night, Alexa Bliss and Tiffany Stratton teaming up against B-Fab and Mission, which is a weird pairing.
It's a weird pairing that makes total sense in context. Jade Cargill and her crew attacked Charlotte Flair the previous week, and Alexa Bliss wants revenge. The only way to get it is to team with Tiffany Stratton, who has her own issues with Cargill heading into Night of Champions. Stratton makes it very clear this is a one-night-only arrangement.
And then Cargill interferes and costs Stratton the match.
Exactly. Cargill trips Stratton behind the referee's back, B-Fab hits the X Factor, and that's the finish. The Bleacher Report review gave this a C+ and called it a formulaic tag match, but noted the crowd was invested and the hot tag to Stratton got a big reaction. Then post-match, Chelsea Green runs in with a kendo stick to make the save, which sets up her match with Cargill later in the show. It's all very interconnected booking.
Then we get the AAA Cruiserweight Championship match, Rey Fenix defending against Nathan Frazer. And this is where the show really starts cooking.
This match got a grade of A from the transcription, and the spoiler notes from No DQ described it as, quote, A banger of a TV match. Fraser has the hometown advantage being from England, and the London crowd was absolutely behind him. The match itself is a showcase of both guys' athleticism. Double kip-ups, springboard crossbodies, a Spanish fly from Fraser, a shotgun meteora from Fenix. It's the kind of match that reminds you why the cruiserweight division matters.
Fenix retains with the Mexican muscle buster, and then they hug after the match and get a standing ovation from the London crowd. That's a nice moment.
It really is. And it's smart booking, too. You let Fraser look great in defeat, the crowd respects both guys, and Fenix's title reign gets elevated by having a great match in front of a passionate international crowd. The O2 Arena gave them a standing ovation, which tells you everything about how the match landed.
Now we need to talk about the MFT situation, because this is a significant storyline development. Tama Tonga and Tala Tonga walk out on Solo Sikoa.
This is huge. So the backstory is that Solo Sikoa spiked his own brother Jimmy Uso on Raw earlier that week. Tama and Tala Tonga are fed up with being dragged into Solo's personal war with the Bloodline. Tama tells Solo they're tired of standing around with no gold around their waists while Solo keeps making unilateral decisions. Tala says they got word from the elders and they're out. Solo throws a fit, yelling about how he brought the MFTs to WWE.
And then later in the show, Finn Balor runs into the Tonga brothers backstage, and there's this interesting moment where he references their history together.
Right. Balor says he's happy to see Tama finally making his own decisions, says it reminds him of the Tama he used to run with. But Tama shuts it down quickly, saying Shinsuke Nakamura was from his past too, and we all saw how that went. Then they walk out of the arena. It's a great little moment that adds texture to Tama's character without over-explaining anything.
Okay, I have to ask about the LA Knight and Solo Sikoa segment, because I think this might be the most underrated part of the whole show.
It absolutely is. This segment got a grade of A, and it deserved every bit of it. Knight comes out and calls Solo down to the ring to explain why Solo helped him on Raw. And Solo opens up in a way we haven't really seen before. He says he hates the Bloodline, hates that he was part of the group, hates Jacob, hates the Usos, hates Roman Reigns. He wants to finish them all.
And Solo pitches a partnership, which makes total logical sense.
It makes complete sense. Solo's argument is that the enemy of my enemy can be friends. Knight even acknowledges it. He says yes, he hates the Bloodline, yes, he's outnumbered, yes, those numbers have always worked against him, yes, he probably needs help. And then he says no. He turns it down. Knight says he lives and dies doing things his way, the only way he's ever known.
Which is such a rare thing for a babyface to do. Usually the hero takes the help and then gets betrayed later. Knight just doesn't take the bait.
That's what makes it compelling. Knight staying true to his character even when it's logically disadvantageous to him is actually great babyface writing. And Solo's response is equally interesting. Later in the show, Byron Saxton asks Solo about being alone, and Royce Keys shows up to warn him that Jacob Fatu is coming for him. Solo asks if Royce will help him. Royce just pats him on the shoulder and says good luck. Solo says he doesn't need luck, he needs help. That's a genuinely vulnerable moment for a character who's been positioned as a monster.
Let's talk about Paige versus JC Jane, because this is a significant match for a couple of reasons.
Huge match for Paige specifically. According to the preview coverage from Yahoo Sports, this was Paige's first singles match since returning to WWE at WrestleMania 42. And her last singles WWE match before this was December 4th, 2017, when she defeated Sasha Banks. So we're talking about a nearly 9-year gap in singles competition.
9 years. And she's wrestling in her home country of England.
In front of the O2 Arena crowd, which was absolutely behind her. The match itself got a B+ grade. JC Jane and Fatal Influence try every trick in the book. Lainey Reed distracts Paige. Jane uses the ropes. The whole Fatal Influence crew is at ringside. But Paige fights through all of it, hits the Paige Turner, and ultimately wins with a roll-up after Brie Bella shoves Jane's foot off the bottom rope. It's a clean enough finish that protects both women.
Now the Danhausen segment. I need you to explain what is happening with Danhausen and Matt Cardona, because this is genuinely chaotic.
So Danhausen has a laboratory where The Miz and Kit Wilson are still electrocuted from a previous week and walking around in a catatonic state with white streaks in their hair. Matt Cardona shows up and thanks Danhausen for helping the New York Knicks win the NBA Finals, which is a fun little detail, but says ever since he got electrocuted, his fist keeps twitching and he has a sudden urge to move back to Long Island and chant, "Woo!" Then Los Garza shows up looking for Freakhausen and wanting their money back.
And then Nick Aldis just books a tag match on the spot.
Aldis comes out and says he doesn't know what this is, but it needs to end. And since at least 4 of them are in condition to compete, he books Danhausen and Matt Cardona versus Los Garza right then and there. The match itself is fun. Danhausen wins with a reverse DDT after Berto gets struck by Pyro from the ring post after Danhausen curses him. The Miz and Kit Wilson are walking around ringside in their catatonic state the whole time. It's absurdist comedy that works because everyone commits to the bit. The match got a grade of B.
Okay, Jade Cargill versus Chelsea Green. This is a match that got made on the fly after Cargill demanded it following the earlier interference.
Right. Cargill demands the match. Nick Aldis makes it official. And the match is essentially what you'd expect. Cargill is dominant. Green gets some hope spots, including a missile dropkick for a near fall. But Cargill hits the pump kick and then Jaded to win. Grade A-. But the post-match is where it gets interesting.
Cargill goes after Stratton again.
Cargill plants Stratton with Jaded and says that was a preview for Night of Champions. Stratton and Bliss try to make the save, but the numbers game catches up to them. It's the same formula as the opening tag match, which the Bleacher Report review noted. They said if only they did not replicate the same angle later on. And that's a fair point. You're doing the same heat-building spot twice in one show, which dilutes the impact of both.
Now we get to what might be the match of the night. Julia versus Kiana James. The transcription gave this an A++ grade.
Double plus, which is a grade I don't think I've ever seen before. And it's warranted. This match is the culmination of a feud between former partners, and both women bring everything. James is physical and aggressive from the opening bell. She hits a running boot before Julia even gets set. Julia responds with her technical precision. There's a hair pull festival, as the transcription calls it, that goes on throughout the match. James hits a falcon arrow for a near fall. Julia hits the Arrivederci and then the Northern Lights bomb to win.
And then Blake Monroe debuts immediately after.
Blake Monroe, described in the Forbes coverage as a former AEW star and former NXT Women's US Champion, attacks Julia from behind right after the match. She hits the neutralizer and stands tall over Julia. It's a bold debut structure. You're introducing a new character by having her take out one of SmackDown's best performers right after that performer just had arguably her best match on the brand. It simultaneously elevates Monroe and keeps Julia protected because she won the match before the attack.
Now let's get to the main event segment. Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Gunther, Jey Uso, and Obafemi all in the ring. This is a lot of people.
It's a lot of people, but it works because each person has a distinct agenda. Cody comes out to address his Night of Champions opponents. Sami Zayn interrupts immediately and tries to apologize for his actions the previous week. The fast count on Gunther, hitting the referee, knocking Cody out with the championship. Sami says it was a mistake, and he regrets it.
And Cody is not buying any of it.
Cody shuts him down hard. He calls Sami exhausting, says he's like a mosquito sucking the blood from him. And then he drops the Kevin Owens line. He says the difference between Sami and Kevin Owens is that KO would have stabbed him in the front, not the back, and at least Kevin Owens has been WWE Champion. That line lands like a bomb.
And Sami's response is equally sharp.
Sami tells Cody to keep Kevin Owens' name out of his mouth, and then makes the argument that Cody is only WWE Champion because of him, because Sami fast-counted Gunther's shoulders down, and that Cody should be thanking him, not chastising him. It's a great heel argument because it's technically true. Then Gunther comes out and says he doesn't care about any of the drama, he just wants the title. He tells Sami that as a wrestler, Sami is a non-factor to him, and that Sami has never been WWE Champion and never will be.
Then Jey Uso shows up, and the London crowd goes absolutely wild.
The crowd wants Jey to run his entrance back, which is a great detail. G fires warning shots at everyone. He tells Cody he's pulling up at SummerSlam, tells Sami that if Sami wins the title, he's coming for him too, and then tells Gunther he gets no warning shot because he's going to do to him what he did at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship and tap him out. That line sets Gunther off.
And then everything breaks down.
Complete chaos. Gunther throws haymakers at G. Rhodes goes for crossroads, but Zayn gets in the way. Gunther boots Zayn. Jey superkicks Gunther. Rhodes hits a drop-down uppercut. Double superkick to Gunther. Then Obafemi walks down to the ring. Jey superkicks Rhodes to the floor. Gunther clotheslines Jey. Zayn clocks Gunther with the WWE Championship. Rhodes plants Zayn with crossroads. And the show ends with Rhodes and Femi in a standoff.
The CBS Sports Review gave that closing segment a B grade and called it a textbook pre-taped go-home show main event segment. Do you agree with that assessment?
Pretty much. The The CBS Sports piece said it accomplished several things. It broke the familiar pattern in the current title scene, promoted two matches simultaneously, and planted seeds for SummerSlam. The Femi and Rhodes standoff is particularly interesting because, according to CBS Sports, those two previously wrestled at Saturday night's main event on the night of John Cena's retirement match, but it ended in a disqualification after Drew McIntyre intervened. So there's unfinished business there.
There's also this interesting wrinkle that CBS Sports pointed out. Both Jey Uso and Oba Femi are Raw superstars, and both have set their sights on the undisputed WWE Championship, which is the Smackdown title. That's a bit unusual.
It is, and CBS Sports noted that the formula has evolved this year. Last year, the King and Queen of the Ring winners challenged for their respective brands' world titles. This year, both Raw superstars are gunning for the undisputed WWE title. And there's a similar situation on the women's side, with Liv Morgan advancing to the Queen of the Ring finals while also being Raw's world champion. It's a more fluid brand structure than WWE has traditionally used.
Let's also mention the Sami Zayn backstage interview because it adds important context to his character heading into Night of Champions.
This is a really good promo. Sami tells Byron Saxton that his mother always told him good things happen to good people, and now he's about to fight for the WWE Championship. He admits the last few months haven't been great. He says he's been crashing out backstage, been an emotional wreck, hasn't fully been himself, and he traces it all back to the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, where he had the chance to win the World Championship and lost because he stayed good. He says the universe has given him the opportunity to redeem himself.
That's actually a really compelling character arc. He's not a villain, he's just someone who's been pushed to his limit.
Exactly. And that's what makes the triple threat so interesting. You have Cody, who's the established champion, Gunther, who believes he was robbed twice, and Sami, who genuinely believes he deserves this after years of doing the right thing and coming up short. All three motivations are completely understandable. The Night of Champions betting odds from Yahoo Sports had Cody at minus 550, Gunther at plus 250, and Sami at plus 700. So Cody is the heavy favorite, but there's real intrigue in how it gets there.
One more thing worth mentioning, SmackDown is returning to 2 hours next week. That was announced during the show.
Yeah, that's a notable production note. The show has apparently been running longer, and the return to 2 hours is a format change worth tracking. It'll affect how much time each segment gets and potentially how the show is structured going forward.
So when you step back from everything that happened on this show, what's the overall verdict?
Here's what this really comes down to. This was a show that did its job. The O2 Arena crowd of 13,328 fans was engaged throughout. The matches that needed to deliver delivered, and the storylines that needed to advance advanced. The Trick Williams and Ricky Saints opening got an A grade. The Fenix and Fraser Cruiserweight match got an A. The LA Knight and Solo Sikoa segment got an A. Julia and Kiana James got an A++. That's a lot of high-end content for a taped go-home show.
The weaknesses being the repetitive Cargill interference spots and Saints not feeling like a credible enough challenger.
Those are real issues. Using the same heat-building formula twice in one show, Cargill interfering to cost Stratton, then attacking Stratton again post-match, dilutes both moments. And the Bleacher Report analysis was right that Saints hasn't been built up enough to feel like a genuine threat to Trick Williams. But those are relatively minor complaints against a show that had genuine standout moments. Blake Monroe's debut adds a new wrinkle to the women's division. The MFT disbandment reshapes the landscape around Solo Sikoa, and the closing brawl successfully made Night of Champions feel like a must-see event.
The London crowd really does make a difference, doesn't it? There's something about international shows that just elevates the energy.
Completely. The O2 Arena crowd was singing for Cody Rhodes when he came out for the main event segment. They were chanting for Jey Uso to run his entrance back. They were absolutely behind Paige in her home country. They buried Ricky Saints with chants and then turned around and cheered Trick Williams. That kind of crowd engagement makes everything feel more important, and it's one of the reasons WWE keeps going back to London.
And the fact that this was taped 3 days before it aired, June 23rd taping for a June 26th broadcast, and it still felt live and urgent, says something about the quality of the production.
That's actually a logistical necessity, not just a creative choice. Yahoo Sports noted the show was taped on Tuesday to ease the potential logistics problem of going from London to Saudi Arabia in 24 hours for Night of Champions. So WWE had to make a taped show feel like a live go-home show, and by most accounts, they pulled it off.
So heading into Night of Champions, Cody versus Gunther versus Sami for the WWE title, Jey Uso versus Oba Femi for King of the Ring, Trick Williams versus Ricky Saints for the US title, Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill for the women's US title, and Io Sky versus Liv Morgan for Queen of the Ring. That's a stacked card.
5 matches, and SmackDown built toward all of them in some way. The Cody Sami Gunther dynamic is the most layered because all 3 characters have legitimate grievances. The Jay Femi King of the Ring final is interesting because CBS Sports noted that reports indicate the winner is being kept as a big secret, which usually signals something unexpected. And the Stratton-Cargill match has real heat behind it after 2 weeks of Cargill systematically targeting Stratton.
Here's what I keep coming back to. This show had a lot of moving pieces, a lot of storylines, a lot of characters, and it managed to give almost all of them meaningful screen time